The war had reached a point where every advantage mattered, every secret could decide the fate of millions. In a world where factories roared and armies marched, one man saw possibilities where others saw scrap. While generals debated strategies and soldiers fought on the front lines, this engineer was quietly shaping a weapon that could change the course of the war. Ordinary metal, discarded parts, and broken machinery, the remnants of destruction, became the canvas for his genius. He was about to prove that sometimes the deadliest tools come not from vast arsenals but from the mind of a single, determined innovator. His invention would remain hidden from friend and foe alike, a secret so powerful that it could tilt the balance of power in ways no one could anticipate. From the outside, he appeared to be just another engineer working in a cluttered workshop filled with odds and ends. But inside, his mind was a battlefield of ideas, each one more daring than the last. He understood metal like a composer understands music. He could see how each piece could fit, twist, and move to serve a purpose beyond imagination. While many focused on mass production and conventional weapons, he saw innovation in fragments, in failure, in things others had discarded. He believed that the scraps left behind by the war machine could be transformed into a weapon that was not just effective but revolutionary. The pressure was immense. Every military leader wanted results. Every moment of delay could cost lives. Yet he worked in silence, driven by a vision that few could comprehend. He faced skepticism at every turn. Colleagues doubted that scrap could yield anything useful. Superiors questioned whether investing time and resources in his untested ideas was worth the risk. But he pressed on, guided by intuition, experience, and an unshakable belief in the potential hidden within rusted metal. Each prototype, each test, brought him closer to a breakthrough that would leave the world astonished. He understood that war was not just about brute force, it was about ingenuity. Tanks could be destroyed, soldiers could be outmaneuvered, but ideas had the power to transcend the battlefield. The key was to remain invisible, to perfect the weapon in secrecy while the world focused on conventional arms. Every scrap he collected, every machine he disassembled, every blueprint he sketched was part of a puzzle that only he could see coming together. And as the days passed, the outline of his secret weapon began to emerge. A device that combined simplicity with devastating efficiency. A tool born from desperation but crafted with unparalleled skill. Soon, what started as a series of experiments and sketches began to take physical form. Pieces of metal, wires, gears, and wheels transformed under his hands into mechanisms that seemed almost alive. It was a delicate balance between engineering and intuition, requiring patience, precision, and an understanding of forces that most engineers only studied in theory. And while the world remained unaware, the engineer knew that this weapon could redefine conflict, giving those who possessed it a decisive edge. It was not just a machine, it was proof that creativity and intelligence could outmatch raw power. He worked tirelessly day and night, driven by the thought that every small part, every discarded piece, could contribute to something extraordinary. The workshop, cluttered and chaotic, was a testament to his relentless pursuit of perfection. For him, there was no failure, only steps toward discovery. Each spark, each clank, and each rearrangement of metal brought him closer to the secret that would soon astonish military leaders and change the course of countless battles. The world outside had no idea that an engineer, armed with nothing more than scrap metal and vision, was about to introduce a weapon that would challenge conventional warfare. Ordinary metal was about to become extraordinary, and a man who once worked quietly in shadows was poised to leave a mark that history would never forget. As the engineer continued his quiet work, the significance of what he was creating slowly began to take shape. While armies clashed and bombs rained from the sky, he was designing something that could give his side an unexpected advantage. The weapon he envisioned was unlike anything seen before, compact, efficient, and capable of turning the tables in ways conventional tools never could. He worked not for recognition but for results, knowing that secrecy was the ultimate shield. Every component he assembled, every calculation he made, was a step closer to a breakthrough that could alter the course of battles and save countless lives. The workshop was filled with the sound of grinding metal and the faint hum of machines. But beyond these noises, there was a silent tension. He was racing against time, aware that the enemy was advancing and that the outcome of the war could hinge on innovation as much as numbers or firepower. His mind worked in patterns that most people could not understand. He saw connections in scraps, patterns in chaos, and potential where others saw waste. Each test, each failure, only refined his approach, guiding him closer to a final design that combined simplicity with extraordinary effectiveness. Word of his ingenuity slowly began to circulate among a few trusted colleagues, though the details remained closely guarded. They whispered about the strange contraptions he built and the unorthodox methods he employed. Some doubted the feasibility of his ideas, while others were secretly impressed by his determination. What set him apart was his ability to envision a weapon not just as a tool of destruction, but as a solution to a problem: how to maximize impact using minimal resources. He transformed discarded metal and broken parts into a system that promised precision, power, and unpredictability. Despite the secrecy and skepticism, the engineer's focus never wavered. He knew that the success of his invention depended on patience, creativity, and careful calculation. Each piece of scrap was more than material. It was a puzzle piece in a larger plan. He tested tirelessly, analyzed every result, and adjusted designs until each mechanism performed exactly as intended. The work demanded both skill and intuition, a blend that few possessed. And as days turned into weeks, the outlines of a revolutionary weapon began to emerge, a creation that would soon astonish commanders and change the dynamics of the battlefield. By the time the first prototype was complete, the engineer understood the potential of what he had achieved. It was no longer just a collection of metal and gears. It was a functional, efficient, and secret weapon, capable of delivering precise impact under conditions that would challenge conventional arms. His work was a testament to innovation born of necessity, a reminder that even in the darkest times, ingenuity and perseverance could create something extraordinary. And though the wider world remained unaware, the foundation was set for a tool that could redefine conflict, demonstrating that the mind of one determined engineer could be more powerful than entire armies. During this time in history, the world was gripped by conflict on an unprecedented scale. Nations were mobilizing resources, armies were clashing across continents, and technology was advancing at a rapid pace to meet the demands of modern warfare. Factories churned out tanks, planes, and artillery, while scientists and engineers raced to develop weapons that could provide an edge on the battlefield. In this environment, every innovation mattered. A small breakthrough could ripple across the war effort, affecting strategies, supply lines, and morale. The engineer's work, though hidden from public view, existed within this high-stakes context, where creativity could be as lethal as firepower. Geographically, his operations were strategically positioned. He worked in a location that allowed him to gather scrap from industrial sites, repair shops, and even battle-damaged equipment. This proximity to resources was crucial, as the raw materials he needed were scattered and often considered useless by others. Politically, the pressure was immense. Military leaders demanded results, and failure was not an option. The world outside his workshop did not recognize the importance of ingenuity over sheer force. Yet it was precisely this environment that made his invention possible. The constraints, the limited materials, the need for secrecy, the urgency of wartime, pushed him to think in ways that conventional engineers could not. Militarily, the conditions were equally critical. Armies were evolving, relying not only on numbers but on adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to exploit weaknesses in enemy forces. The engineer understood that a weapon could not succeed merely by being powerful. It had to be clever, versatile, and efficient. This understanding shaped every decision he made, from selecting materials to designing mechanisms. Unlike mass-produced weapons, his creation leveraged innovation and strategy, turning ordinary scraps into tools of extraordinary impact. Within this backdrop, the engineer's role began to take shape. He was not just a technician, he was a problem solver operating at the intersection of science, intuition, and necessity. He identified gaps in existing weapons, studied enemy tactics, and envisioned solutions that were unconventional yet effective. His work was a blend of theory and practice, requiring a deep understanding of mechanics and a creative mind capable of seeing possibilities where others saw none. Every sketch, test, and prototype was a calculated step toward a weapon that could surprise and dominate in unexpected ways. By understanding the pressures of the era, political urgency, military necessity, and geographical constraints, we can appreciate why his work mattered so much. He was not working in isolation. He was responding to a world at war, where innovation could determine survival. His ability to turn scrap into a functional, secret weapon was a direct response to these conditions, demonstrating that resourcefulness and intelligence could rival the mightiest armies. The man behind this incredible innovation was more than just an engineer. He was a thinker, a strategist, and a relentless problem solver. While most engineers focused on following designs and producing predictable outcomes, he approached each project as a challenge to outsmart limitations. His background combined hands-on mechanical experience with a deep understanding of physics and material science, allowing him to see beyond what was possible with conventional thinking. He had an unusual ability to visualize how pieces of scrap, when combined in precise ways, could produce effects far greater than their individual components. He worked alone most of the time, but a few trusted colleagues assisted him, providing specialized knowledge or helping gather the necessary materials. These collaborators were skilled but cautious, understanding that secrecy was critical. They knew that the success of the project depended not just on talent but on discretion. A leak could compromise the entire effort. Despite the pressure, the engineer inspired loyalty and respect. His vision was compelling, and his unwavering dedication made others believe that even the most impossible ideas could become reality. Each member of his small team had a specific role. Some focused on metalwork, bending and shaping pieces to exact specifications. Others worked on assembly, ensuring that each component fit seamlessly into the overall design. Even in this small, concentrated operation, discipline and precision were paramount. One error could ruin weeks of work or render the prototype useless. The engineer demanded exacting standards, yet he encouraged experimentation, understanding that breakthroughs often came from trial and error. As the weapon began to take shape, tension built both inside the workshop and in the wider context of the war. Rumors of secret projects circulated among the higher-ups, and the engineer knew that discovery by enemy forces could be catastrophic. Every day brought new challenges. Some materials failed under testing, some mechanisms refused to function as intended, and each setback increased the stakes. The pressure was relentless, but it also fueled innovation. The engineer thrived under this tension, turning obstacles into opportunities, always refining, always improving. The stakes could not have been higher. With armies clashing across multiple fronts and resources stretched thin, the potential impact of his invention was enormous. If successful, it could provide a decisive edge, disrupt enemy strategies, and save countless lives. Every decision mattered. Every cut, weld, and calculation carried weight far beyond the confines of the workshop. The combination of expertise, creativity, and relentless determination made him and his team uniquely positioned to achieve what others had dismissed as impossible. The prelude to conflict was now set. Inside a quiet, cluttered workshop, An engineer and his small team worked against time, refining a weapon that could change the course of battles. Outside, the world continued its march of destruction, unaware that a single mind and a handful of resources were about to challenge conventional warfare. Every spark, every twist of metal, and every completed prototype brought them closer to a secret that could alter history. As the first prototypes were completed, the engineer began testing them under controlled conditions. Every detail was scrutinized, from the strength of metal joints to the precision of moving parts. Early maneuvers were cautious, designed to understand how the weapon would behave in real-world conditions. Adjustments were frequent, often requiring disassembly and reconstruction, but each trial brought new insights. The engineer approached these initial movements like a chess player, anticipating possible challenges and preparing for contingencies. The goal was not just to create a functional device, but to ensure it could perform reliably under pressure, in the chaos of actual conflict. The early operational tests revealed both promise and limitations. Some components held up perfectly, while others failed unexpectedly, forcing rapid innovation. The engineer meticulously recorded every observation, adapting the design to overcome weaknesses. This iterative process was painstaking, but it was essential. Each adjustment refined the weapon's efficiency, making it more reliable, more precise, and more deadly. What began as a simple collection of scrap metal was slowly transforming into a sophisticated tool of war. Meanwhile, the engineer also considered deployment strategies. A weapon could only be as effective as the plan that used it. He analyzed potential scenarios, studying enemy tactics and anticipating how his invention might be countered. He designed tests that simulated real conditions, from environmental factors to operational stress. Every maneuver, every adjustment, and every calculation was aimed at ensuring the weapon could perform flawlessly when the moment came. The engineer understood that success in the field required more than engineering skill. It demanded foresight and adaptability. Early engagement exercises began to simulate combat conditions. Small-scale tests demonstrated the potential impact of the weapon, showing how it could surprise opponents and deliver results that conventional arms could not. These tests built confidence among his small team, proving that the concept was not just theoretical but practically viable. Yet the tension remained high. Each trial carried risks, and a single failure could compromise weeks of work. The stakes were growing as the weapon neared readiness for real deployment. With each operational movement, the engineer's vision became clearer. The combination of meticulous design, rigorous testing, and strategic planning revealed a device capable of delivering precise, high-impact results. What started as scrap metal was evolving into a secret weapon that could turn the tide of conflict. The anticipation of seeing it in action added a palpable tension. The team knew that once deployed, the results could astonish allies and enemies alike. Their work was a blend of art and science, preparation and daring, innovation and intuition. As preparations moved closer to real deployment, the situation began to intensify. What had once been careful testing now shifted into high-risk readiness. The engineer faced mounting pressure as military leaders demanded proof that the weapon could perform under true combat stress. Time was running out, and enemy forces were adapting quickly. Every delay increased the risk that the opportunity for impact would be lost. The engineer pushed the design to its limits, reinforcing weak points and simplifying complex mechanisms to reduce the chance of failure. The weapon was no longer an experiment, it was becoming a necessity. Unexpected challenges soon emerged. Some components reacted differently under extreme conditions, forcing last-minute changes. Supplies grew scarce, and replacing failed parts meant returning to scrap piles and broken machines once again. Tension filled the workshop. Mistakes were no longer acceptable, and the weight of responsibility was heavy. The engineer understood that if the weapon failed in its first real use, It would not only end the project but could also cost lives. Yet, instead of slowing him down, this pressure sharpened his focus. He trusted his design and the countless hours of refinement behind it. Then came the moment everything had been building toward. The weapon was deployed for the first time in a real operational setting. Conditions were far from ideal. Confusion, noise, and danger surrounded the deployment. But as the mechanism activated, it performed exactly as intended. What followed was a turning point. The weapon delivered its effect with speed and precision, catching the enemy off guard. Conventional defenses failed to respond in time, and the impact was immediate and decisive. In that moment, the engineer's vision proved itself. Scrap metal had become a force capable of reshaping the battlefield. The climax unfolded rapidly. Enemy movements were disrupted, plans collapsed, and confusion spread. What made the weapon so effective was not just its power, but its unpredictability. It did not follow familiar patterns, making it difficult to counter. Military commanders quickly realized they were witnessing something extraordinary, an innovation that changed how the fight was unfolding. For the engineer and his team, it was the ultimate test, and it had succeeded beyond expectations. As the dust settled, the significance of what had happened became clear. A single idea, built from discarded materials and driven by determination, had altered the balance of the conflict. The engineer watched quietly, knowing that this moment marked the peak of his work. The secret weapon had proven itself, and nothing about the war would feel quite the same again. In the immediate aftermath, the battlefield was quiet, but the effects of the weapon were unmistakable. Enemy forces were disoriented, their formations broken, and their strategies thrown into chaos. Commanders scrambled to understand what had happened, but the sudden, precise strike left little evidence of conventional attack. Allies, too, were taken aback, witnessing the efficiency and impact of a device that seemed almost magical in its effectiveness. The engineer's creation had not just succeeded, it had exceeded expectations. Casualties and damage were minimized on his side, a testament to the weapon's precision. Unlike traditional tools of war, it achieved its goal without unnecessary waste or exposure. Soldiers and commanders alike quickly recognized the advantage it provided, though few understood the ingenuity behind its design. The secret weapon had proven that intelligence, creativity, and careful planning could rival brute force. The immediate tactical results were impressive, giving his side breathing room, strategic leverage, and a renewed sense of possibility. The engineer himself remained largely in the shadows. He did not seek praise, only results. His satisfaction came from knowing that months of meticulous work, testing, and problem-solving had paid off. Each component, each calculation, each discarded piece of metal had contributed to a moment of decisive impact. His team, equally focused, began cataloging the outcomes, noting what worked flawlessly and what could be improved. The victory was tangible, yet it was also a lesson in restraint and secrecy. The weapon's power would only remain valuable if it stayed hidden from enemy eyes. Meanwhile, military leaders began to grasp the broader implications. A single, well-engineered device had disrupted enemy operations more effectively than entire conventional units in some instances. The potential for scaling and further innovation was evident, sparking discussions on how to expand the concept while maintaining secrecy. The immediate aftermath demonstrated a simple truth. Ingenuity could be a decisive factor in war, and a brilliant mind could turn the smallest resources into something extraordinary. The battlefield had changed overnight. What had started as scraps in a quiet workshop had evolved into a tool that could shift the momentum of conflict. The engineer's creation proved that creativity, careful planning, and relentless dedication could yield results far beyond what traditional force could achieve. In those first hours after deployment, the world had already begun to feel the effects of a weapon unlike any other, and the engineer knew that this was only the beginning. The broader impact of the engineer's invention soon became apparent. Military strategists began to study reports of the weapon's effectiveness, noting how it could disrupt enemy formations, delay reinforcements, and create opportunities for larger operations. It was no longer just a single tactical success. It represented a shift in how war could be fought. Leaders realized that innovation, even from unexpected sources, could change outcomes in ways sheer numbers never could. The secret weapon became a symbol of ingenuity triumphing over conventional strength, a lesson that reverberated far beyond the battlefield. Historians later noted that this invention influenced the development of future military technologies. The principles demonstrated efficient use of limited resources, precision targeting, and adaptability were applied to other projects and inspired engineers for decades. Its existence showed that a single determined mind, working with limited materials under immense pressure, could create tools capable of redefining warfare. In a time dominated by massive armies and industrial might, the success of one small team proved that cleverness and persistence could outweigh sheer scale. The resolution of the engineer's efforts brought lasting recognition, even if initially kept secret. His weapon had achieved its mission, protected countless lives, and proved that innovation was as critical to victory as courage on the front lines. Over time, he gained respect among peers and military leaders, not through fanfare but through the undeniable impact of his work. The secret he nurtured quietly in his workshop became a legacy, influencing strategies and inspiring future generations of engineers. His story is a testament to the power of creativity and determination. Scrap metal and discarded machinery, once thought useless, had been transformed into a tool of extraordinary impact. The engineer demonstrated that innovation is not measured by the resources one has, but by the vision and persistence applied to them. The legacy of his work extends far beyond the immediate conflict. It is a lesson in resourcefulness, ingenuity, and the extraordinary potential of human creativity. As history looked back, it became clear that the man who turned scrap into a secret weapon had left an indelible mark. His invention reshaped not just battles, but approaches to problem-solving and engineering in wartime. The ingenuity born of necessity proved that sometimes the smallest ideas, nurtured in secrecy and executed with precision, can change the course of history. Even today, the story of the engineer who turned scrap metal into a secret weapon continues to inspire. It reminds us that innovation can come from unexpected places, that perseverance in the face of doubt can lead to extraordinary outcomes, and that a single determined mind can change the course of events. Every piece of discarded metal he touched became a testament to creativity, resilience, and vision. Now it's your turn to think. If you were given nothing but scraps and time, what would you create? Could you see potential where others see waste? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's explore what imagination and ingenuity could achieve together. And stay tuned, because the next story will take us even deeper into the hidden world of extraordinary inventions that shaped history.